"One night in my bed, and I'll set you free." The Alpha King's words hung in the air like a death sentence wrapped in silk. Arden's hands trembled as she stood before him, the iron shackles on her wrists cold against her skin. She'd walked into the throne room expecting execution. Rogues didn't typically survive capture by the crown. But this made her wolf pace restlessly beneath her skin, torn between fury and a dangerous curiosity. King Grant Sinclair didn't look like the monster the stories painted him to be. No horns, no cruel sneer, just devastating cheekbones, and a mouth that curved with dark amusement as he watched her process his offer. His dark eyes tracked her every movement with predatory focus. "You're insane," she said, proud that her voice didn't shake. "I'd rather rot in your dungeons." "Would you?" He rose from his throne with liquid grace, descending the dais steps one at a time. Each footfall echoed through the cavernous room. "From where I'm standing, you broke into my palace, infiltrated my private quarters, and attempted to steal something of great value to me. The penalty for that is death, Arden Hayes." The sound of her full name on his lips sent an involuntary shiver down her spine. She lifted her chin. "Then kill me and be done with it." "I could." He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that she could smell cedar and winter pine clinging to him. "But you're far more useful to me alive. You made it past wards that have stopped master thieves and trained assassins. You have skills I need." "And one night in your bed gets you those skills? That's quite an ego you're carrying, Your Majesty." A ghost of amusement flickered across his face before disappearing. "One night in my bed, and I'll give you what you really came here for." He paused for a beat, letting the words sink in. "Not the documents you tried to steal, but your brother. I'll help you get Kieran back." Arden's blood turned to ice. Her brother Kieran had been missing for 3 months, vanished without a trace after he'd gone hunting too close to the border. She'd searched everywhere, followed every rumor, chased every lead until she was nearly feral with desperation. When she'd heard whispers that the king's private files contained information about the disappeared wolves, she'd had no choice but to break in. "You're bluffing," she whispered, but hope was a treacherous thing, already unfurling in her chest. Grant circled her slowly, and she realized with unsettling clarity that he moved with mechanical grace. There was something hollow about him. Kieran Hayes, age 23, last seen near the Silverpine border. Gray wolf, unusual silver markings on his right foreleg. You've been searching for him for months, growing increasingly desperate enough to break into a king's palace. Arden's breath caught. So he did know. "Why?" The words scraped from her throat. "Why would you help me? What could you possibly want from one night with a rogue wolf?" Grant stopped directly in front of her, so close now she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Up close, she could see the exhaustion etched into his features, the barely concealed desperation hidden beneath his controlled exterior. "Because I find you extraordinary." "I don't understand." "You don't have to. Not yet." He raised one hand, and the guards immediately filed out of the room, leaving them alone. "But I need an answer, Arden. One night. Dawn comes. You walk out of here free, and I'll personally help you retrieve your brother. You have my word as king, bound by blood and honor. I won't force you. I won't hurt you. But I am asking you to trust me." Before we continue, please like this video and subscribe. It will make my day. Arden studied his face, searching for deception and finding only a bone-deep weariness. Her wolf, which should have been snarling at the proximity of such a powerful alpha, instead felt an inexplicable pull toward him, something that whispered safe and home and mine in a way that made no sense given the situation. If I say yes, she said slowly, I want your word that Kieran will be returned to me unharmed, not just information about where he is. I want him back. You have it, and I need to know why. Why me? Grant's jaw tightened. Agree first, then I'll explain everything. This was reckless, but Kieran was all she had left in the world, her baby brother, who'd followed her into rogue life when their pack had exiled them for their father's crimes, who'd been missing for 93 excruciating days. One night, she heard herself say, and you help me get Kieran back, then I never see you again. Something that resembled pain flickered across Grant's face. Then we have an agreement. He held out his hand, and when she placed hers in it, shackles and all, a spark of something electric passed between them. His eyes widened fractionally, the first genuine reaction she'd seen from him. Did you feel that? He asked, his voice rough. Feel what? But he was already moving, drawing her toward a side door she hadn't noticed. Come. We have much to discuss, and the night is already growing short. Grant's private chambers were nothing like Arden had imagined. No torture devices, no overt displays of power. Just a surprisingly simple suite of rooms decorated in deep blues and grays, with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the palace gardens. A fire crackled in the hearth, casting dancing shadows across the walls. He released her hand the moment they crossed the threshold, and she noticed he flexed his fingers as though testing them. You can remove the shackles, she said. I gave you my word. I won't run. Grant pulled a key from his pocket and unlocked the iron cuffs. They fell away with a clatter, leaving red marks on her wrists. He stared at the marks for a long moment, then turned away abruptly. Drink? He moved to a sidebar where crystal decanters caught the firelight. Answers, Arden countered, rubbing her wrists. You said you'd explain. I did. He poured amber liquid into 2 glasses anyway, then settled into one of the chairs by the fire. After a moment's hesitation, Arden took the other chair, accepting the glass he offered. Their fingers brushed again, and again she saw that flicker of something in his face. 5 years ago, Grant began, staring into the flames rather than at her. I executed a wolf named Damien Crow for treason. He'd been selling pack secrets to our enemies, getting our people killed. The evidence was irrefutable, his guilt absolute. But his mate, a witch named Isla, didn't care about his crimes. She only cared that I'd taken him from her. He took a long drink, though Arden noticed he held the glass in a strange, rehearsed way. She cursed me. Said if I took away what made her alive, she'd do the same to me. And she did. I can't feel anything anymore. Not temperature, not texture, not pain, not joy. It's like existing behind glass. Arden's breath caught. Is that why you move like that? Why you seem hollow? Grant's laugh was bitter. Because I am. I can see the fire, but I don't feel its warmth. I can hold this glass, but I don't feel its weight. I taste nothing, feel nothing, care about nothing, and it's killing me, slowly but inevitably. I'm sorry, Arden said softly, and meant it. Whatever he might be, no one deserved that kind of existence. The curse has one condition for breaking, Grant continued. My true mate must willingly share my bed. The problem is, I can't feel the mate bond. I have no way of knowing who she is. He finally looked at her, and the raw desperation in his eyes made her heart clench. Until tonight. The palace wards, he explained. They're designed to repel anyone who wishes me harm or approaches with ulterior motives. The only people who can bypass them are those who come to me with pure intent. You shouldn't have been able to get within 100 yards of my chambers, Arden. But you did. The implication crashed over her. You think I'm I think you're the first person in 5 years who's touched me and made me feel something. He set down his glass and stood, crossing to where she sat. When you took my hand downstairs, I felt warmth. Actual, physical warmth. It was like being underwater for years and finally breaking the surface. Arden's heart pounded against her ribs. The mate bond would explain the inexplicable pull she'd felt, the way her wolf responded to him with recognition rather than fear. But it seemed impossible, absurd. The king and a rogue? That doesn't mean... No, Grant agreed. It doesn't. Which is why I need tonight. If we... He trailed off, a muscle working in his jaw. If we're intimate, if you choose me willingly, the curse will either break or it won't, and we'll know for certain. And if it doesn't break? Arden asked. If I'm not your mate? Then I've lost nothing except a little more time. The curse will continue its work, and I'll die within the year. His voice was matter-of-fact, resigned. But you'll still get your brother back. I keep my word. Arden stood, needing to move, to think. She walked to the windows, staring out at the moonlit gardens. Behind her, she heard Grant's quiet breathing, felt his presence like a physical weight. Tell me about Kieran, she said. If you know where he is, tell me now. I need to know he's alive. He is. Grant moved to stand beside her, maintaining careful distance. The same witch who cursed me has been taking wolves. Building an army, we think, though for what purpose we haven't determined. Your brother was captured 3 months ago and is being held in a compound 2 days' ride from here. Why haven't you raided it? Why haven't you rescued them? Because I'm dying, Grant said bluntly. The curse has weakened me to the point where I can barely maintain my alpha authority over my own pack, let alone mount an offensive. Isla chose her revenge well. Every day I lose more of myself, more of my strength. If I'd led a raid in my current state, I'd have gotten my wolves killed and accomplished nothing. He turned to face her, and the vulnerability in his expression made him seem younger, more human. But if the curse breaks tonight, if you are my mate, I'll have my full strength back by dawn. We can ride out tomorrow and bring your brother home. The word we hung in the air, tugging at Arden's heart. Why do you care so much? Arden asked. About helping me, I mean. Because I'm tired, Grant said simply. Tired of being half alive. Tired of ruling a kingdom I can't even feel connected to anymore. When you touched my hand and I felt warmth for the first time, it was like remembering what it meant to be alive. Even if this doesn't work, even if you're not my mate, you gave me that moment. The least I can do is help you save your brother. The raw honesty in his words carved something open in Arden's chest. She'd spent so long thinking of the Alpha King as an untouchable figure, cold and distant and cruel. But the man standing before her was none of those things. He was just broken, desperately searching for something to make him whole again. Just like her. Okay, she whispered. Grant's eyes widened. Yes, one night. We'll see if this crazy theory of yours is right. She turned to face him fully, squaring her shoulders. But I need you to confess something. I think maybe you're right. Maybe there is something between us. My wolf recognized you the moment I walked into that throne room, and that's never happened before. She took a step closer, watching the way his breathing changed, the way his hands flexed at his sides. So if we do this, we do it honestly. No pretending, no games. If you feel something, you tell me. And if you don't, she swallowed hard. If you don't, then at least we'll know. Honestly, Grant repeated, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw a real smile touch his lips. It transformed his entire face, making him devastatingly attractive in a way that should have been illegal. I can do that. He offered his hand, palm up, an invitation, not a demand. Arden placed her hand in his. The warmth that flooded through their connection made them both gasp. It was like touching a live wire, electricity and heat and recognition all tangled together. Grant's eyes fell closed, his hand tightening around hers. "I feel that," he breathed. "God, Arden, I can feel your pulse. I can feel the warmth of your skin. I can feel—" His voice broke. "Everything." Arden's own pulse was racing, the mate bond singing between them with increasing intensity. She could feel his amazement, his relief, his desperate hope bleeding through the connection. Without consciously deciding to move, she stepped closer until barely any space remained between them. "Grant," she whispered, testing his name on her tongue. His free hand came up to cup her face, and the tenderness in the gesture made her breath catch. "I can feel this," he said wonderingly, his thumb brushing across her cheekbone. "Your skin is so soft. You're so warm. I'd forgotten what that felt like." Arden turned her face into his palm, pressing a kiss there. "Then feel this too." She rose onto her toes and kissed him. For a moment, Grant went utterly still, as though afraid the slightest movement might shatter the moment. Then he made a sound low in his throat, part groan, part growl, and kissed her back with the fervor of a man dying of thirst who'd finally found water. His hands framed her face, holding her like she was something precious and breakable, while his mouth moved against hers with increasing desperation. Arden's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, and when his tongue traced the seam of her lips, she opened for him without hesitation. The kiss deepened, turned molten. Grant's hands slid from her face to her shoulders, down her arms, as though he couldn't stop touching her, couldn't stop confirming she was real. When he reached her waist and pulled her flesh against him, Arden felt the evidence of his desire and felt an answering heat bloom low in her belly. "Arden," he breathed against her lips, then kissed her again, slower this time, but no less intense. "I can taste you. I can feel the softness of your lips, the way you shiver when I touch you here." His hands splayed across her lower back, and she did indeed shiver. 5 years. 5 years of nothing, and now I can't stop touching you. "Then don't," Arden managed, her voice husky. "Don't stop." Grant's control, already frayed, snapped. He walked her backward toward the bed, never breaking the kiss, his hands roaming over her body with reverent wonder. When the backs of her knees hit the bed, they tumbled onto it together, and Grant caught his weight on his forearms, hovering over her. "Tell me if you want me to stop," he said, his voice rough. "Tell me if this is too fast." "I need you to kiss me again," Arden interrupted, pulling him down. He did, with enthusiasm. His hands found the laces of her tunic, and she arched into his touch as he slowly, carefully began unwinding them. Every new inch of skin he exposed, he touched with wonder, as though discovering something miraculous. "You're beautiful," he murmured against her collarbone, trailing kisses along the newly bared skin. "So incredibly beautiful." Arden's hands fumbled with the buttons of his shirt, desperate to feel his skin against hers. When she finally pushed the fabric off his shoulders, she sucked in a breath. He was all lean muscle and smooth skin, beautiful in a way that made her want to trace every line with her fingers and tongue. She did exactly that, dragging her nails lightly down his chest and reveling in the way he shuddered. "Can you feel that?" "Everything," Grant groaned. "I feel everything, Arden. You're overwhelming me in the best possible way." He captured her mouth again, and this time the kiss turned wild. Clothes disappeared piece by piece, tossed aside carelessly until nothing remained between them but skin and want, and the mate bond singing its approval. Grant's hands traced patterns down her sides, over her hips, learning the shape of her. When he settled between her thighs, the press of him against her made them both groan. "Tell me you want this," he said, his forehead pressed to hers. "Tell me." "I want this," Arden assured him, wrapping her legs around his waist. "I want you. All of you." Grant gasped, and then they were moving together, finding a rhythm that felt ancient and right. The pleasure built slowly, steadily, like a fire catching. Grant's hands were everywhere, his mouth trailing kisses along her jaw, her neck, her shoulder. Every touch felt like worship, like he was trying to memorize her through sensation alone. "You feel incredible," he groaned against her throat. "So perfect, like you were made for me." "Maybe I was," Arden gasped, her nails digging into his shoulders as the tension coiled tighter in her belly. "Maybe we were made for each other." The words seemed to undo something in Grant. His rhythm faltered, then intensified, and Arden felt herself climbing higher, higher, until she was balanced on a knife's edge of sensation. When Grant's hand slid between them, finding that bundle of nerves that made her see stars, she shattered. Her climax crashed over her like a wave, and through the mate bond, she felt Grant's own release follow seconds later, his groan of completion muffled against her shoulder. They collapsed together, tangled and breathless, hearts racing in tandem. For a long moment, neither spoke. Grant's weight was warm and solid above her, his face buried in the curve of her neck. She could feel his breath against her skin, could feel the rapid beating of his heart gradually slowing to match hers. "I can feel you," he whispered finally, his voice thick with emotion. "Not just physically, but through the bond. I can feel what you're feeling. Your contentment, your confusion, your—" He pulled back to look at her, and she was startled to see tears tracking down his face. "Arden, I can feel again." She reached up to brush the tears away with her thumbs. "The curse broke?" "The curse broke," he confirmed, and his smile was radiant, transforming him into someone younger, lighter, more alive than she'd yet seen him. "You're my mate, my true mate. The moon goddess brought you to me." The enormity of it crashed over Arden. Maybe this wasn't just a one-night deal anymore. This could be permanent, sacred, binding in ways that transcended any agreement they'd made. Was she mated to the Alpha King? "Hey," Grant said softly, clearly reading her sudden panic through the bond. "Breathe. I know this is overwhelming. I know this wasn't what you bargained for when you agreed to tonight." "I'm mated to you," Arden said, testing the words. "I'm your queen?" "Only if you want to be." Grant carefully rolled to the side, pulling her with him so they lay facing each other. "The mate bond is real, and it's permanent. But everything else, titles, expectations, the future, that's negotiable. I won't force you into a role you don't want." "You need a queen," Arden pointed out. "Your kingdom needs a Luna." "My kingdom needs me to be whole," Grant corrected, "which you've already given me. Everything else we can figure out together. No pressure, no demands, just two people getting to know each other, learning what this bond means." The sincerity in his voice, in his expression, in the emotions bleeding through their connection, eased something tight in Arden's chest. "What about Kieran? You promised to help me get him back." "I will." Grant's hand found hers beneath the sheets, lacing their fingers together. "At dawn, we ride out with my best warriors. We'll raid Isla's compound, free your brother and every other wolf she's taken, and end her threat once and for all, together." Together. There was that word again. "I'm scared," Arden admitted quietly. "This is all happening so fast. 3 hours ago, I was a rogue thief breaking into your palace. Now I'm your mate, and I don't know how to be a queen or a Luna or anything except what I am." "Then be what you are," Grant said simply. "Be Arden Hayes, who loves her brother enough to break into a king's palace, who's brave enough to bargain with an alpha when most would have cowered, who's strong enough to give a dying man hope." He pressed a kiss to her forehead. "That's all I need you to be." Fresh tears pricked at Arden's eyes, but these were different from before. These were tears of relief, of hope, of something that might eventually grow into love. "Okay," she whispered. "We'll figure it out together." They lay like that for a while, wrapped in each other and the newness of the bond, talking quietly. Grant told her about growing up as a prince, about the weight of the crown he'd inherited too, young when his father died. Arden told him about life as a rogue, about the way she and Kieran had survived on their wits and skills after their exile. "Why were you exiled?" Grant asked, his fingers tracing idle patterns on her shoulder. "My father embezzled from the pack funds," Arden said, old shame coloring her voice. "We didn't know. Kieran and I were kids. But when it came out, the Alpha stripped our family of everything. Our father hanged himself rather than face trial. Our mother died of grief 6 months later. Kieran and I were deemed guilty by association and cast out." Grant's arms tightened around her. "That's barbaric. You were children." "We survived," Arden shrugged. "Learned to be ghosts. Learned to steal what we needed and disappear before anyone noticed. It's not a life I'd choose again, but it made us strong, made us rely on each other." "We'll get him back," Grant promised. "I swear it on the mate bond. Your brother will be home by tomorrow night." The certainty in his voice made her believe him. Eventually, exhaustion began to pull at Arden, the adrenaline of the night finally fading. She yawned, and Grant smiled, pulling the blankets up over them both. "Sleep," he murmured. "We have a long ride ahead of us tomorrow." "Will you be here when I wake up?" Arden asked, suddenly uncertain. "I'm not going anywhere," Grant assured her. "Not now, not ever. You're stuck with me, mate." The teasing warmth in his voice made her smile. She settled against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart, and let herself drift. Arden woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the unfamiliar warmth of another body beside her. For a moment, disorientation clouded her thoughts. Then memory returned in a rush, the bargain, the curse, the mate bond, and she turned to find Grant watching her, propped on one elbow. "Good morning," he said softly. "How long have you been awake?" Arden asked, suddenly self-conscious about her tangled hair and sleep-creased face. "An hour, maybe. I couldn't sleep. Too busy feeling everything." His smile was boyish, almost giddy. "Did you know silk sheets have a texture?" "I'd forgotten. And the way sunlight feels warm on skin, and the way you make this small sound in your sleep when you're content." He broke off, laughing at himself. "I'm being silly." "You're being happy," Arden corrected, reaching up to touch his face. "It suits you." Grant caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. "I am happy. Deliriously so. And we need to get moving if we're going to reach Isla's compound by nightfall." Reality crashed back. She sat up, suddenly all business. "What's the plan?" Grant rose from the bed, and Arden took a moment to appreciate the muscles that rippled across his back before forcing her brain to focus. "I've already sent word to Captain Vale to assemble a strike team," he said, pulling on clothes from his wardrobe. 20 of our best warriors, plus you and me. We'll travel light and fast." He tossed her a set of clothes, fitted leather pants and a tunic that looked suspiciously like they'd been made for a woman of her size. At her questioning look, he shrugged. I had them prepared last night while you were sleeping. Figured you'd want something more practical than a dress for a raid. The thoughtfulness of the gesture warmed her. Thank you. They dressed quickly, and Grant led her through the palace corridors to a private dining room where breakfast waited. Arden was acutely aware of the curious stares from servants and guards they passed, but Grant's hand remained steady in hers, his presence solid and reassuring. They're going to have questions, Arden said quietly as they ate. Let them question. Grant's tone was unconcerned. By tonight, everyone will know you're my maid anyway. Might as well get used to the attention now. A knock at the door interrupted them. A tall man in military dress entered, bowing sharply. Your Majesty, the team is assembled and ready to ride on your command. Thank you, Vale. Grant stood, pulling Arden with him. This is Arden Hayes, my mate. She'll be riding with us. Vale's eyebrows rose, but his expression remained professional. My lady, welcome. Just Arden, she corrected, and thank you. The courtyard was organized chaos, warriors checking weapons, horses being saddled, supplies being loaded. But when Grant appeared, silence fell instantly. 20 pairs of eyes turned to him, then to Arden, then back. Listen up, Grant said, his voice carrying effortlessly across the space. 5 years ago, a witch named Isla cursed me. She's been operating with impunity ever since, believing me too weak to move against her. She's been wrong. He smiled, and there was something dangerous in it. The curse is broken. I'm back to full strength. And today, we're going to remind her why lesser wolves fear to challenge the crown. We're raiding her compound, freeing the wolves she's taken, and ending her threat permanently. A cheer went up from the assembled warriors. Grant let it fade before continuing. One of those captured wolves is Kieran Hayes, brother to my mate. We're bringing him home. We're bringing all of them home. Mount up. The group sprang into action. Grant led Arden to a magnificent black stallion already saddled. Can you ride? I can keep up, Arden assured him. His grin was wolfish. We'll see about that. The ride was hard and fast, the kind of pace that ate up miles. Arden pushed her horse to keep up with Grant, refusing to fall behind. Through the mate bond, she could feel his exhilaration, his anticipation, his renewed strength singing through him like a living thing. They stopped once to rest the horses and eat a quick meal. Grant pulled Arden aside, his expression turning serious. When we get there, I need you to promise me something. Stay close to me. Isla is dangerous, and she'll see you as a target, the mate who broke her curse. I can't protect you if you go running off on your own. Arden bristled. I can take care of myself. I've been doing it for years. I know you can. Grant's hands settled on her shoulders. But this isn't about your capability. It's about me being terrified of losing you hours after finding you. Please, Arden, let me keep you safe. The vulnerability in his voice, in his eyes, softened her resistance. Okay, I'll stay close. But Grant, when we find Kieran, nothing stops me from getting to him. Nothing. I wouldn't dream of it. He pressed a quick kiss to her lips. Your brother is pack now. My pack. We protect our own. They reached the compound as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold. The structure was larger than Arden had expected, a sprawling complex of buildings surrounded by high walls. Dark magic hung heavy in the air, making her wolf whine uneasily. Grant raised his hand, signaling the group to halt. Vale, take your team around the east side. Create a distraction, the rest of you, with me through the main gate. That's your plan? Arden whispered. Straight through the front door? I'm the Alpha King, Grant said simply. I don't sneak. I announce. He was magnificent in his confidence, and Arden felt a surge of pride through the bond. This was her mate, powerful, commanding, absolutely certain of his strength. Grant shifted, his wolf emerging in a ripple of magic and moonlight. He was massive, easily twice the size of a normal wolf, with fur the color of midnight and eyes that glowed with alpha fire. Around them, the rest of the warriors shifted too, forming a pack of lethal predators. Arden shifted last, her smaller russet wolf feeling suddenly inadequate next to Grant's magnificence. But when he turned those glowing eyes to her, she felt nothing but approval and protection radiating through the bond. They charged. The gate exploded inward under Grant's assault, wood and metal giving way like paper. Isla's guards poured out to meet them, shifted wolves and human fighters alike. The clash was immediate and violent. Grant fought like a force of nature, all teeth and claws and unstoppable power. Arden stayed close, as promised, taking down any threat that got too near. The mate bond pulsed between them, allowing them to move in perfect synchronization, covering each other's blind spots without needing to communicate. They fought their way through the outer courtyard into the main building. Inside, the stench of fear and unwashed bodies hit Arden like a physical blow. Cells lined both sides of a long corridor, filled with gaunt wolves in human form. "Find your brother," Grant said, back in human form now. His voice was steady, despite the blood splattered across his skin. "I'll hold them off." Arden raced down the corridor, frantically scanning each cell. Her heart hammered as she saw the conditions these wolves were kept in. Barely any food, no medical care, treated like animals in the worst sense. Then she saw him. "Kieran!" Her brother was slumped against the back wall of his cell, thin and pale but alive. His head jerked up at her voice, his eyes widening in disbelief. "Arden, how—" "Later." She tried the cell door, found it locked, and looked around frantically for keys. A blast of dark magic exploded down the corridor, and Arden spun to see a woman emerging from a doorway at the far end. She was beautiful in the way of poisonous things, sharp features, eyes like black ice, power crackling around her like lightning. "So," Isla said, her voice dripping venom, "you're the little wolf who broke my curse. I should thank you, really. Now I get the pleasure of killing Grant Sinclair when he's at full strength, rather than watching him waste away. It'll be so much more satisfying." "You're welcome to try." Grant's voice came from behind Arden. He stalked forward, positioning himself between her and the witch. "But you're going to fail, just like you failed to break me with your curse." Isla's laughter was cruel. "Oh, darling, the curse was never meant to break you. It was meant to make you suffer. And it worked beautifully for 5 years. And now it's over." Grant's voice dropped to a growl. "Surrender, and I'll make your death quick. Fight, and I promise you'll beg for mercy before the end." Bold words from a king. Isla's hands began to glow with dark energy. "Let's see if you can back them up." She attacked. The magic she threw was unlike anything Arden had seen. Black tendrils of power that sought to drain life on contact. Grant dodged, shifted, and lunged at the witch with incredible speed. The two forces collided in an explosion of magic and alpha power that shook the entire building. Arden knew she should help, should do something, but Isla was right. She was just a rogue wolf with no magic, no special abilities. What could she possibly— The keys. She spotted them hanging on Isla's belt, forgotten in the heat of battle. Moving on instinct, Arden shifted and darted forward, weaving between Grant and Isla's fight. Isla's hand shot out, but Grant intercepted, taking the blast of dark magic meant for Arden. He roared in pain but didn't fall, giving Arden the opening she needed. Her jaws closed on the key ring, and she yanked it free from Isla's belt. The witch shrieked in fury, But Grant was there, driving her back with relentless attacks. Arden shifted back, fumbling with the keys until she found the one that fit Kieran's cell. The door swung open, and her brother stumbled out, catching her in a fierce hug. "I knew you'd come," he breathed. "I knew you wouldn't leave me." "Never," Arden promised. Then, raising her voice, "Everyone who can walk, get out now. Follow me." The other prisoners didn't need to be told twice. Those who could move helped those who couldn't, and they streamed toward the exit in a ragged, desperate mass. Behind them, Grant and Isla's battle reached its crescendo. The witch threw everything she had at the Alpha King, but Grant was relentless, unstoppable. With a final, devastating blow, he closed his jaws around her throat. It was over in seconds. Grant shifted back, breathing hard, covered in blood and burns from Isla's magic. But he was alive, and through the bond, Arden felt his triumph, his relief, his urgent need to get to her. "Go," he said to his warriors. "Get these people to safety. I'll be right behind you." But Arden was already running to him, throwing her arms around him despite the blood and dirt. "You're hurt." "I'm fine." Grant held her tight. "Are you? Is your brother?" "We're both good, thank you." She pulled back to look at him. "You did it. You freed them all." "We did it," Grant corrected. "Together." The journey back to the palace was slower, burdened with rescued prisoners who needed medical care and rest. Kieran rode beside Arden, still looking dazed but increasingly more alert as they got further from Isla's compound. "So," he said finally, his voice hoarse from disuse, "you're mated to the Alpha King. That's unexpected." "You have no idea," Arden said wryly. "He seems decent enough. For a king." Kieran's eyes tracked to where Grant rode at the head of the column. "And he clearly adores you. I can see it in the way he keeps checking to make sure you're okay." Arden followed his gaze, feeling the mate bond pulse warmly. "It's complicated. It always is." Kieran reached over to squeeze her hand. "But Arden, you look happy. I don't think I've seen you like this since before Dad died." The observation settled something in Arden's chest. "I am happy, scared and overwhelmed and not sure what I'm doing, but happy." "Then that's all that matters." They reached the palace as dawn was breaking, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Medical staff rushed out to tend to the freed prisoners, and Grant issued orders with calm efficiency, ensuring everyone was cared for. When the chaos finally settled, he found Arden in the courtyard, watching Kieran being examined by a healer. "He'll be okay," Grant said quietly, coming to stand beside her. "Malnourished and exhausted, but nothing permanent. He's strong, like his sister." "Thank you," Arden said, her voice thick with emotion. "For keeping your word. For helping me get him back. For..." She turned to face him. "For everything." "You don't need to thank me." Grant pulled her close, resting his chin on top of her head. "You're my mate. Your family is my family. Your brother is Pac now, if he wants to be. He'll have a place here, a role, whatever he needs." Through the bond, Arden felt his sincerity, his determination to make good on every promise. "What happens now?" she asked. "With us, I mean. Do I just move into the palace? Start being queen? I don't even know what that entails." "Now," Grant said, pulling back to meet her eyes. "We take it one day at a time. You learn what being Luna means. I learn how to be a mate instead of just a king, and we figure out this bond together. That simple? It's that simple." He smiled, and it transformed his whole face. "Though I should warn you, there will be councils and ceremonies, and probably some very tedious political dinners. Being queen isn't all romance and adventure." "I think I can handle tedious," Arden said dryly. I've survived worse. You have. Grant's expression turned serious. Arden, I know this isn't the life you expected. I know you were forced into this through circumstances rather than choice. But I want you to know, I'm going to spend every day trying to make you happy you stayed, trying to build something with you that's worth having. The raw honesty in his words made Arden's throat tight. I'm happy I stayed, she said softly. Scared, yes, uncertain, absolutely, but happy. The mate bond, it feels right. You feel right. And after spending so long just surviving, the idea of actually living, of having someone at my side who wants me there. She trailed off, trying to find the words. I know, Grant said simply. I spent years feeling nothing. You gave life back to me. You gave me everything. He kissed her then, slow and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, Kieran was watching them from across the courtyard, a knowing smile on his gaunt face. Your brother approves, Grant observed. He's always been a romantic, Arden said, waving to Kieran. Then he'll love what I have planned for tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Tomorrow, Grant said, his eyes twinkling with mischief. I'm going to teach you how to be an alpha queen, starting with how to intimidate council members who think they can ignore your opinions because you're new. Arden laughed, the sound surprising her with its genuine joy. I think I'm going to like being queen. You're going to be magnificent at it. Grant tucked her hand into his arm. Come on, let's get you cleaned up, fed, and rested. Tomorrow, we start building our future. Together. Together. That word again, but this time it didn't feel overwhelming. It felt like a promise, like hope, like the beginning of something that could grow into forever. As they walked into the palace, Arden felt the mate bond settle warm and content in her chest. She'd come here as a rogue thief looking to save her brother, and she'd found so much more. She'd found her mate, her purpose, her place. She'd found home. And as Grant's hand squeezed hers, as she felt his contentment and hope and growing love through their bond, Arden knew with growing certainty that she'd made the right choice. One night in his bed had set her free, but it had also bound her to him in ways that transcended any deal. It had given them both something to live for, something to fight for, something to build together. The sun rose over the palace, painting everything in golden light, and Arden smiled. This was just the beginning. There would be challenges ahead. She knew that. Learning to be queen, helping Kieran, adjust, dealing with whatever political complications arose from a rogue becoming Luna. But they'd face it together. Grant pulled her to a stop just inside the palace doors, turning to face her with such tender intensity, it stole her breath. I love you, he said simply. I know it's fast, but through the bond, I can feel it. I love you, Arden Hayes, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving it. Arden's heart felt too full, too large for her chest. I love you too, she whispered, and knew it was true. The bond had given them a foundation, but this was real emotion, real choice, real love growing from shared experience and genuine connection. Good, Grant said, his smile radiant. Because you're stuck with me now. No takebacks. No takebacks, Arden agreed, and kissed him again as the sun rose on their first day together. Would you have accepted one night for your siblings' freedom? And where are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. I love hearing your thoughts, and if you'd like to support me, please subscribe. It's free, and it helps more people hear these stories.